Hello and welcome to the November edition of HR Hot Topics. I'm your host, Jody Schaefer. My aim is to make this the most informative 5 to 10 minutes of your month. This month's topic is artificial intelligence in the workplace. Unless you've been living under a rock for the past several months, AI is all the buzz, ChatGPT, and what obligations AI vendors have, and how should we be using AI in the workplace and in our general life. And certainly the government believes like we've got the cart ahead of the horse on this one, and so trying very desperately and quickly to try to put some rules around that. So on October 30th, President Biden issued a new executive order targeting AI specifically. And there are two key requirements of this executive order. One requires new safety assessments put in place. Again, a lot of these are for the AI vendors. And then there's another focus on equity and civil rights guidance too. So a couple key directives from this. One, AI developers are now required to share their testing results, their bias testing results, their accuracy testing results, that kind of thing, with the government to make sure that a tool is safe, so to speak, before it is released. And then another one is aimed at the Department of Commerce, and the idea here is to develop some sort of a guideline for content authentication. In other words, somebody who's reading something on the internet, how do you know if it's true? How do you know if it came from a credible source or if it's something that was just generated by AI? From a workplace setting, the EEOC has been talking about AI for the past several years. They came out with a new strategic priority plan for 2024 to 2028, and they specifically target how AI is being used in the workplace. And a lot of it centers around screening tools. So for any of you out there who are using AI technologies to make the search process more streamlined, more efficient, and you're putting in algorithms about skills and qualifications and experience, et cetera, so that only the most qualified resumes make it to your doorstep, some of those algorithms and some of those vendors may be running afoul of non-discrimination rules, especially in the eyes of the EEOC. And so there's a lot of guidance that has been published around that. I think the two biggest ones are making sure that employers understand bias audits, in other words, testing the technology you're using to ensure that it is not having this disparate impact on protected classifications unintentionally. And the other is making sure that there is consent, that the applicant knows that you're using an AI technology, that they consent to you using an AI technology as part of the screening process. And if they don't consent to it, having an alternative method for those individuals. And that could be a phone screen with a real person, for example, or a face-to-face interview to ferret out, whether or not they're truly qualified. So that's one big piece. The other one that I think is really important for employers is that in the eyes of the EEOC, and EEOC, for those of you that have never watched a video of mine before, stands for the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Another big push for them is that the liability for any discrimination that's happening as a result of the use of these AI tools would fall squarely on the shoulders of the employer, not the software vendor. So that's really, kind of scary for some employers that are using some of this technology. And it should be an important part of your screening process when you are vetting technology providers to understand what testing processes they have done internally. How do they ensure that their tools are not inadvertently discriminating against folks in qualified, who are qualified but in protected classifications, and making sure that that data would pass the sniff test for the EEOC, because at the end of the day, that responsibility lies on the shoulders of the employer, not the software vendor. Now, as I said at the top of this episode, President Biden's executive order is trying to put some onus on the shoulders of the vendors as well. But right now, employers bear an equal responsibility in that. So making sure that we're smart about how we use that. Now, I mentioned screening tools, right? That's one of the ways that AI is often utilized in the workplace now. There are some other ways, and I just want to share these with you. This is from a recent SHRM article. Employee monitoring software is another place AI is used, where you're monitoring when employees are at their computer and rating employees based on keystrokes. So that might be a form of AI. software for interviews that's scanning facial expressions to then determine whether or not somebody is honest and trustworthy. Personality, aptitude, and cognitive skills tests. These have long been scrutinized by the EEOC. And then chatbots that automatically reject applicants who do not meet specific requirements. So those are just a few of the ways that AI may already be present in your workplace. Some best practices, I think, for all of you, and there are a handful here. One, as I said, making sure if you're using AI technology in the workplace that you're providing notice, that people know that you're using this, and then somehow getting consent for folks that they know this is going on. The conducting of bias audits, we talked about that. And there's a whole formula for that. I will place a link for that formula in the email message, as always. And then having an AI policy. This is another big one. We do handbooks. It's one of the service lines, and we just had our handbook audited by an employment law attorney that we work with, and there was a lot of conversation around AI and needing to have a specific AI policy, because right now it's like the wild, wild west. People are using it, but there aren't any real rules around how to use it. So drafting an AI policy in conjunction with your employment law attorney, in this case, because it's just a field that's shifting so quickly that I think you want to have a set of legal eyes on it. But you want to look at things like, which positions can use AI, and for what types of work product can AI be used. And, I think you need to talk about plagiarism as well, and how company information can be used, because once it's out into the ether, any potential AI, generative AI tool could pull that information and use it in any way it wants, right? There's not a consent form there. So just being really careful about how AI is used, both in what you can pull from the ether and what gets pushed out into the ether. And I only say ether because I don't really understand this stuff. And then the final one is making sure that you have human oversight. So one quick example of this. Will, who's behind the camera today, Will 2 months ago started using ChatGPT to come up with a blog that would be sort of associated with whatever the topic of the HR Hot Topic video was for that month. And the blog would go on our website. So the first month he did it, our topic was creative employee benefits. And he took the transcript from my video, so it was all my content, and he had ChatGPT pull from my transcript and come up with a blog. And it was awesome. Like, there was a really formal one, and we kind of toned it down to make it a little bit more social, a little more familiar. Perfect. Last month, we did an update on some pending legislation at both the state level and the federal level. Will again took the transcript from the video, pushed it through ChatGPT, said, make a blog for this, and it was a miserable fail. So Will gave it to me. I'm like, what is this? This isn't right. This isn't right. This isn't right. And I'm like, did you use my transcript for this? Yeah, the source material was valid, but ChatGPT didn't read it correctly. And had I not looked at it, that would have been published as if a lot of this proposed legislation was an actual rule already, which would have been the complete wrong idea. So it just really highlights the need to have human oversight, even if you are using these tools and you have a policy that guides how you use them, making sure that you still have that human quality control check, because you never know what it's going to pull, and you don't want to just have blind faith in a tool like this. So I'll put some more information for you around AI in the email message, as I always do. But of course, if you have questions, you can reach me directly, Jody Schaefer at workwithhrm.com.